Tired of shows that bark and scream at you? This is the show that speaks to you.
Here's the game plan.
It's the Big E Sports Extravaganza, where we go inside the issues, present a variety of topics, and feature some of the biggest sports guests on the planet. Now, here's the one and only, award-winning Elissa Walker Campbell.
Hey, Elissa Walker Campbell, I want to welcome you back to the Big E Sports Show. Indeed, it is countdown to kickoff. Super Bowl 60 takes center stage at Levi Stadium in Santa Clara, the ultimate moment of the NFL season. And joining us now is Dick Vermeil, Super Bowl winning head coach, one of the most respected leaders in the history of the NFL. Coach Vermeil built championship teams, developed quarterbacks, led with passion, preparation, and purpose. Always a true pleasure when we have the opportunity to catch up with you. Hi, Coach.
Hey, good afternoon, good morning. Yes.
Well, we got a lot of ground to cover, and let's get right into it because the matchup between the Seahawks and the Patriots surprised many at the start of the season. So as you look at how both these teams arrived here, Coach Vermeil, what stands out the most about their journey?
Well, I think the consistent improvement all through the season, they just kept getting better in all phases of the game, offense and defense. And when you really study these guys, it's amazing how close they are in terms of computer reports and numbers and comparisons. I've spent some time this week because I have time evaluating them as a total team. In other words, when you're really good on offense, what's the equivalent stat on defense for that specific area of the game? And it's amazing how good they are and everything. When I combined over 70-something offensive and defensive stats in the same category, one team was in the top 10 combined in 34 times and the other team 35 times. Yeah. So they're just two outstanding football teams, and they are where they belong.
Well, and teams, when we talk about the Seahawks and the Patriots, they lean heavily on their defense throughout the season. And, Coach, what does it take to build a championship caliber defense capable of carrying a team all the way to the Super Bowl?
Well, number one, it takes a great defensive coordinator. And then number two, it takes great defensive linemen. And from there, you can start building a real fine defense, But Seattle's number two on defense and points allowed. New England's 7 with points allowed. And there's a very few point differences in the two teams. A percent of scoring drives, for example, Seattle gave up a touchdown every 28% of attempts, and New England 33%. So Seattle has a 5% edge in terms of allowing a team to score percentage-wise. And many times that's more based on the schedule than it is the actual quality of the defense.
Super Bowl winning coach Dick Vermeil is with us this weekend on the Big E Sports Show as it is countdown to kickoff. We look forward to Super Bowl 60. And, you've got two defensive coaches reaching the Super Bowl. And we've talked a lot about this on the program this weekend in terms of just how does this feel unique in an offensive-driven era? I mean, what does this say about perhaps where the league is headed?
Well, I think it's lucky because it doesn't happen very often. It also proves the quality of the head coach that could combine the quality defense with a quality offensive coordinator and let him coach and provide him the discipline, the structure, the practice organization that allowed the offense to be what it ended up being. And I think there have been coaches in the past, probably not many, that were great defensive coaches, but really didn't know what they wanted offensively or couldn't hire the guy they wanted to do it for them offensively, or sometimes interfered to the point that they couldn't do it very well. So you have to give both head coaches credit for being really respectful of the other side of the ball. And of course, in New England, it was easy with McDaniel. They worked together, so that was easy for them.
What do you think is going to be the separator in terms of what separates teams that thrive under Super Bowl pressure from those that struggle when the moment gets really big?
Turnovers. Who doesn't give the ball away? Who takes the ball away? And they're both very good at doing that right now going into the game. But, freak things happen in every game. The other thing that will be determined is the critical call. Who creates a big play? Everyone's excited and there's a holding penalty. or blocking in the back, or illegal procedure, or illegal movement, or lined up wrong. Some simple penalty that takes away a well-executed offensive play and helps the defensive team win the ball game.
We often talk about on the program just how players prepare for the Super Bowl. Your former player, Trent Green, was on with us, and he did talk about minimizing those turnovers. But I'm just wondering, Coach, from your perspective, if anything, what did you do differently leading up to the biggest game of your career?
Well, when we went to the Super Bowl in 1999, there was no bye week. I think it's the only time a Super Bowl was played in modern era when there was no bye week. So it really made the week preparation miserable. Okay, and very tough to do with all the distractions and everything. And I remember what I did, not that it was the right thing to do, but I left my entire coaching staff in St. Louis because the next day after the championship game, the rest of the team and myself were on a plane flying to Atlanta to be in Atlanta the next day.
Yeah.
Whereas now you have a week by and you could do a better job of detailing everything. And there's so many things that can disrupt your focus and preparation for a big game like the Super Bowl, and it's magnified when you had no bye. So I don't think I'm an expert. I think I'm lucky. Okay.
Yeah.
It came down to the last play of the game, if you remember, when we won it, and we were lucky because Jeff Fisher did a great job of bringing his team back to almost win it in the second half. And fortunately for us, it didn't get done.
Well, and I have to wonder, too, just as a coach, how do you balance the temptation to endlessly prepare? Because, you got to keep it simple still. Those players, they've got to be able to be mentally fresh and they've got to be able to execute.
Yeah, well, the coaching staffs that get to the Super Bowl may not have ever been to the Super Bowl together, but they got to where they are by working together and knowing what the team could do. And more often than not, you don't change your routine and you don't over-exaggerate different things. What you make sure is you're detailed like you are every week and prepare for the game just like you prepare any other time. But you have to continually talk to the team, and nowadays with the bye and everything, how to maintain the focus and get the right things right in the right order. And put number one priority is this, number two priority is this, number three priority is this, and go ahead and prepare. And more often than not, you prepare the same way that got you in the game in the first place.
The great Dick Vermeil with us this weekend, a few more minutes on the Big E Sports Show. And let's zero in and talk about the quarterbacks. Just a fascinating storyline. And Sam Darnold, his journey has taken him through multiple teams and challenges. Dick, what about his resilience and his growth stands out the most to you as he reaches this pinnacle of his career?
First, it defines the depth of his personality and the self-confidence. He never quit on himself.
Yeah.
As you know, and you've already stated, he moved around. But he finally was with the team that he became a contributor to in a positive way, rather than being a great player but not having the supporting staff anywhere else. Like at the Jets, so many times this happens to the quarterback. They end up being the victim of the circumstances, and I've always said you're either the victim or the beneficiary of the system you're in as a quarterback and the people you're with. And I think he was a victim. And he got to the 49ers and he spent a year there and as a backup, and he said he learned a lot there. And it helped him gain some confidence in going into Minneapolis. Now, Minneapolis regrets letting him go. But in the meantime, they got to their number one pick, if you remember. So I think it's a great tribute to him, his depth of character and his deep belief in himself.
Well, and this experience is going to help him handle those pressure moments on Sunday compared to, you've got Drake May. This is his very first quarterback. And my goodness, he's only 23 years young.
Yeah, but I think he's being coached by people that have been there and done it.
Okay.
Head coach has been there as a player. The quarterback coordinator has been there as a coach. I think he will balance everything properly for Drake May. And the kid only threw 7 pass interceptions the entire season.
That's true.
Yeah, and he led the league in percent complete. He had 109 quarterback efficiency rating, and Darnold had 102 rating. So they're all so close. It'll just depend. Let's say they throw a beautiful ball and the receiver tries to catch it and it bounces off his hand and it's intercepted. How many times have we seen that? Mm-hmm. No fault of the quarterback, but it happens. And if those kind of things happen in this kind of ball game with two teams as evenly matched as they are, that team will win.
Well, and for a young quarterback like Dre May, what would you say, Coach, is the greatest mental challenge for him on Super Bowl Sunday?
To recognize once the ball is snapped, it's the same game you played a few weeks ago. It's a game of football. And just be who you are. Be who you were when you quarterbacked 17 games in the regular season and the playoffs and got us here. Just be who. Don't try to be Superman. Allow the team to help you win the football game.
You know, you mentioned talking about Drake May. He's surrounded with some amazing coaches that have been there before, and he has really emerged as one of the league's most impressive young quarterbacks. When you look at him and just his skill set, I mean, what traits makes him so well suited for a moment like this?
Well, I think his performance is beyond his experience in the league. Okay, remember I had Kurt Warner.
That's right.
And the first year he became a starter, he broke every record there was for the first six starting games in a career for a quarterback. I think they still all hold. So there are guys that can do it. And evidently Drake May is it. But he is really benefiting from the contribution of his offensive coordinator and quarterback coach. You know, they aren't asking him to do high-risk things. They aren't asking him to do things he can't do well. And they run the ball, they mix everything in together, a lot of play action, and a lot of deliberate design in everything they do from week to week. And it'll be the same come this Sunday. They will know what they're doing. It's been something they've done probably all year, off and on through the season, maybe not 3 weeks in a row, but off and on. They've done most of the things they're going to do Sunday. They've done once or twice, or maybe more than once or twice during the regular season. Very few things they ask them to do will be brand new.
You know, Coach, you have talked about on our program in the past just describing the quarterback as the extension of the head coach, and just maybe talk about how you were able to establish that trust between you and, say, Kurt Warner. I mean, you've coached some amazing quarterbacks through the years.
Well, first off, it takes a while for a coach to develop the trust of his team. And that filters down into the individual player all the way into the quarterback. And sometimes it filters into the quarterback sooner than it does the other players because there's 10 other guys on the field at the same time that quarterback's on there. And but I think it's a mental attitude throughout the entire roster that permeates the depth of the quarterback's confidence and trust in his team and his coaches. If half the team doesn't believe in the coach and the other half does, it's a problem, especially for the quarterback. So I think, you don't get to where these two teams are with a conflict in trust. Okay. Greg Vrabel's coach of the year as of last night.
That's
and
right.
His first season back there just shows you how wrong Tennessee was. He wasn't a problem. Somebody else is a problem in Tennessee. Okay.
Yeah.
And you've got the job that's being done up in by the young coach in Seattle, and just how much he has grown and how soon he has developed into a Super Bowl quality coach is remarkable. It's wonderful to see these young guys, the Sean McVays and these kind of guys, come on as strong as they have very early in their careers. I really respect these kids, and I just say how much further along they are as young coaches than I was at the same time.
Super Bowl 60 is almost here. My final question for you, we can't let you get away with asking you about Bill Belichick and his Hall of Fame snub. How surprised were you by that?
I'm disappointed, but not totally surprised. The new system, when they combine the coach and the contributor and the senior player all into one category, and each person has to get 80% of the 50 votes to get in. Last year, nobody got in. This year, one senior player got in. So I think they're going to have to revise the system because I think it's disrespectful to the NFL football coach. They fired 10 of these guys this year. So that sort of explains how important they are. And when you have people that are successful, Mike Holmgren last year, Bill Belichick this year, who's it going to be next year?
Yeah.
I think, I would have never gotten in the NFL Hall of Fame or Pro Football Hall of Fame with the same voting standards they have today. When I went in, they screened the coaches that were up for candidacy. They picked one and then presented it to the 50 voters, and if you got 80%, you got in. I didn't have a vote, so I got in. But in today's mechanics, I would not have gotten in. And I think it's disrespectful to the position, and I'm sure our leadership at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Jim Porter and staff, will revise this program and do something to make it more equitable for a football coach.
Absolutely. Dick Vermeil, Super Bowl winning head coach, one of the most respected leaders in the history of the NFL. You and Carol enjoy Super Bowl 60, and we look forward to another conversation here in 2026. Take care, Coach.
Thank you, Elissa. Bye-bye.